Header Footer Gallery is part of the New Media Caucus and is dedicated to promoting the creative output of our members by situating their work in thoughtfully curated exhibitions that take place across our entire web presence. New Media Caucus is an international nonprofit association formed to promote the development and understanding of new media art. We represent and serve artists, designers, practitioners, historians, theorists, educators, students, and scholars. Recognizing new media art to be inherently interdisciplinary, multimodal, and evolving, we support and advance a wide range of inquiry to catalyze further evolution of the field. The New Media Caucus is committed to extending and sustaining the diversity of our community, board, and membership. To promote an environment of equality, inclusion, and respect for difference, we prioritize inclusion as an ongoing collaborative process of growth that we continually address both within the caucus and in our field.
Welcome, everyone, to the 28th episode of the Header Footer Presents show. I'm your host, Renee.
And I'm your co-host, Constanza.
In this episode, we're going to talk about what we did at the CAA conference with our panel called Walled Gardens and Wild Artists. This was a really interesting panel that we headlined, featuring two artists, Cadmus Suteya and JLS Ganwich. Besides that, we're going to talk a little bit about what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like, and also the New Media Caucus Showcase, which also took place during this period. With that said, I'll explain a little bit of what we meant to remind whoever wasn't watching on episode 27. So, walled gardens refers to app stores and all these environments where you can exist and have content or software or whatever, but it's controlled by a central entity. So this could be the Play Store, which is the Google one. It could be the App Store, which is the Mac, the Mac one. Could also be the Meta Marketplace, which is the Facebook one, so on and so forth. So these spaces are very useful, but they also present a lot of problems. So the first thing that makes them useful is that it gives people confidence in that what you're downloading is not gonna completely destroy your computer, your cell phone, whatever. So for example, if you see a website for an artist and it just says download this random software, install it in your computer, you might not be willing to do that. But if it's just go here to the App Store and download it, it gives you a lot of access. It also makes the reach even bigger because it's easier. It's just click download, accept. Maybe if you have to pay for something, you'll pay for it. You can do it live. So if you're like in a show, like in a gallery or something, you can literally put a QR code, scan it, done. Also, it's really amazing how QR codes took off after almost a decade of being like not used for anything, and it's all because of the pandemic and menus. But anyhow, that would be actually an interesting thing thinking about QR codes later as not this episode, but another episode, maybe something academic. Yeah. I saw a gallery exhibition at ZKM, which was actually QR code exhibition. There were no artworks. Everything was QR codes. It was so cool. And it was artists talking about a piece of art that they were that was hung, which was the QR code. So instead of showing you the picture, they talked about it. It was really interesting. But yeah, going back to this, so it's very convenient. The problem with this convenience is that you're bound by the terms and conditions of these spaces. So Google doesn't really like certain things. Apple really dislikes anything that can be considered sex. And the problem is that this has a problem, that it drags in like different genders, different identities that, because of how heteronormative society works, they are considered too sexual, right? And so they get banned or they get restricted, especially now with what's happening in the US, it might get even weirder. So yeah, so that's one of the biggest problems. But there's also other problems, which are like financing these things, because you have to keep updating them. If there's a new computer, new iOS patch, and your software just fails, it happens, you have to fix it again. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So there's a lot of pros and cons. So what we did is we invited these two artists, Cadmus Suteya with Voidopolis and JLS Ganwich with like everything they do. parentheses, Connie was so surprised how tall Jails is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well,
Like,
because you're
oh,
just used to seeing people, especially during the pandemic, right? It was one of those things that you're used to seeing people on a little tiny square.
yeah,
And um and then when you get to meet someone in person, it's completely different. It just ruins your perspective of and your
absolutely.
expectations of the person, which is very funny actually. So yes,
Yeah,
JLS is much taller than anticipated.
yeah. Hi, Jails.
Hi.
Cadmus Tatea, who's the other artist. Already mentioned her. So we had these two fantastic artists who are projects who are already in app stores and things like that.
Right.
And then we had the public who were like really receptive because this was an experimental session. One of the things we wanted to do is everyone hates when someone stands on a podium and it's like, I am reading my academic paper. This is what
Yeah.
happened. So, and what happens is there's questions, and then when everybody's leaving, you have like 5 minutes where someone approaches you if you're like the panelist, and they try to start a conversation, and that's when the cool questions come out, and then there's not enough time. So instead of doing that, what we did is we skipped the whole paper part and we jumped directly into the questions. And this new type of conversation was really cool. There were some issues which I hadn't considered, but this is
Yeah.
more like the thing that we can improve. It was suggested
Yeah,
that
it's
we have like
feedback.
a, sorry?
It's feedback. We should
Yeah,
have had visuals or images, right,
exactly.
to help with just the topic that we were discussing. And I think having Kat's book, right, because she brought a couple of copies so
Yeah,
that she could pass them around to the audience, so you could actually get a sense of what the book was actually about, Voidopolis, right?
yeah.
But yeah, for next time I think we should do more something a little bit different, right?
Yeah, I think something, it's going to sound weird, but like kind of like in a show and tell kindergarten kind of scheme where you're like,
Um,
hey, I did this, or maybe here's an iPad where I have the thing. You can pass it around and play with it a little bit while we're talking,
yeah.
and you can look at it. Uh, or like a highlight reel, well, or maybe all of them. Like
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But it's really a format that I want to explore more. I think it's better than just people reading, honestly.
Hmm.
So in those aspects, it was really good. Also, we had two participants, Connie's new friend, Leslie, and Michelle,
Hi,
who's a
Leslie.
curator. Leslie, if you're watching, hi. So we had Michelle and Leslie really engaged in the questions that were being presented from two very disparate backgrounds. So Leslie is an artist, and they do like performance and experimental
Do
things,
video installation works,
video
uh,
installation, exactly.
right? They're large scale, which takes a lot of time. So what they do is that they work in analog, and at the end of it, it looks like a high tech new media thing, which is very interesting, but all the process is very analog. But no, Leslie was a lot of fun to talk to,
Yeah,
and they gave us a lot of ideas of what we've been doing. But also, like a lot of the questions that came from the audience were in discussion with obsolescence, right? Obsolescence,
yes,
but also how to upkeep. That's one of the questions and one of the problems that we discussed, I think, the previous episode
yeah,
was not just obsolescence, but how do we keep up with the ongoing, um, what would you call it? Like the ongoing maintenance of
yeah,
the app, for instance, right? Or something like that. Or what happened, because at the end of the day, you're at the whims of these companies that might just
corporations.
a corporation, exactly. So you might just not have it in like a couple of years. So these bring a lot of implications about an artist's work and what the role of the artist now is in this very much contemporary landscape, right?
Yeah.
What they're working in apps and stuff.
And you also see like the separation, well, not separation, but the difference in how both groups approach it. Because, well,
Yeah.
Leslie was like, oh, well, it's my piece and I want to show it, but I don't really particularly are fussed with what happens in the future. The curators, the art historians in us in the audience
Yeah.
were like, no, I want it all, right? Like we want to have it documented, we want to have it forever so we can preserve it, show it, blah blah blah, study it, and all these
Yeah.
things. And that shows how sometimes while everybody's in the art world, the things are not completely aligned. I don't know if you want to comment on that as well.
No, that's very true. And it's something that I was thinking about a lot because Kat Musitea's book is something that, you can remind me a little bit more, you only can read once, I believe. Uh,
Hypothetically, yes.
yes, with the app. And then afterwards, it becomes just an object. Like I'm trying to,
It's an illegible object, yes.
an
So
illegible
it
object,
uses
right?
an app, and basically you scan it's like AR. So you scan the
Yeah.
pages and then they become readable. If you don't have the app, you cannot. But the thing is, the app ceases working after 1 year of being activated. But
Yeah.
apparently it resets after some time, or that's what I understood.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's, I think, something
Because
I heard. But
that was
that,
the publisher.
yeah, and I think one of the really interesting questions that comes up with this is also permanence of an object, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what role do we have as art historians and curators, collectors, etc., when an
Yeah.
object just disappears? However, this isn't new. There's has been a history of these types of works that have been very conceptual in nature, right? That disappear. And so for many of it could be a form of political or institutional critique in some cases, right? There are various reasons why someone would want to do this. Um, but I would be more interested in seeing what Kat's take on the permanence of the object would be more like in from her opinion, right? But that goes back to Leslie's point, that sometimes, you should be okay with just letting the object
Letting go.
let
Yeah.
it go, right? And maybe that's like the aspect of creation that we just not that we take for granted as art historians necessarily, but we have thought about it through a very specific discipline in a very different way from artists.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they can survive through documentation, but the thing is, if you're not there at the moment to make that
Yeah.
documentation, like what happens, right? Like there's the Yves Klein check into the river thing, or the gallery that he emptied out, or the one that he filled with balloons and all these things. Like they didn't last, the art pieces, but we have this documentation that at least talks about them. But what brings it a little bit more into conflict is that in digital apps, for example, like you can theoretically preserve them. Even if they don't work, you can keep like the idea, like a description of what their behaviors, and then recreating those behaviors, not exactly its code, which is
Right.
where I think we're getting stuck a little bit in art history.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the paper that is in the process of being edited, the technonecromancy piece that we wrote. And I think that was really, it's funny because at the conference when we mentioned this, many people were really excited to read the paper.
Oh
And
yeah,
so we're definitely going to have to post a link when it's done, like a PDF or something, or a link to the chapter.
yeah, it's
Um,
a book. I think they're not gonna let us do a
oh, right.
online share.
Well, we'll see. There
We'll
are
see.
ways. There are
It's
always
been
ways.
pushed ahead, by the way.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, they had like this little gap in print in editing, so they were able to push this forward a little bit. So it might come out sooner than we expected, but it's a book, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes in 5 years.
yeah, fair enough. That is a process of book editing and publishing, right? But no, that particular work was very important. Not just that, but it was also very useful in order to discuss, the object's permanence, but also what do you do? How do you write about it, and how do you collect it, and how do you curate something that, for example, it does not exist, especially Kat's book, right?
Yeah.
Like if we think about it, how would you write about something like that? How would you showcase it in an exhibition, for instance? As a curator, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end, we have this responsibility as art historians. We also have a responsibility to the artist, and we have to respect
Yes,
what they want, right? And it can be tough to determine what to do, and that's what, like you're saying, like techno necromancy asks the hard question of what do we do when we don't know what the artist wanted, right?
exactly.
Like because it's a paper that's looking into the future. Because this kind of sounds so grim, but like most new media artists are still alive, so we can still ask them,
Yeah,
or the vast majority. Like obviously, some of them have passed, but this early history is going to start getting into the point where like those people are not going to be around, and if
hmm,
they didn't leave us a will of how they want their things to continue, we don't know. And then we have to ask ourselves these questions. Would this artist be okay with us recreating this thing? Would they not be okay? And
exactly.
that leads me to something that was discussed yesterday at my job, which there's this piece which is called the Garden of Eden. I can't remember who made it, but it's a browser-based web page that, well, it's a browser, and basically it looks at a website from a different perspective. So instead of you seeing the website, what you see is but horses, and those horses are CSS. And then you see a sphere in the sky, and that's the HTML tag. And
Mhm.
so it creates a garden of Eden using the elements of your web page. And this thing was dead for a long time. They
Well,
contacted the artist, and the artist was like, well, it doesn't work anymore, and I'm not going to fix it.
right.
So they went to Rhizome where it's collected, and Rhizome was like, well, you have to pay us. So the team was like, okay, we can't pay Rhizome. It's a lot of money just to even look at the code. Um,
Mm.
so what can we do? Well, they basically did it by themselves. They downloaded the
Okay.
code and revived part of it as best as they could. And
Oh,
now everybody's interested in it, which is really cool. Like seeing the work recognized by the big players, and they're like, "Hey, can we continue this work?" So
yeah.
it's pretty exciting. But yeah, so this is an example of an artist that completely abandoned something, and now they're like, "Oh, you managed to make it alive again, right?"
See, that would have been cool to put in the paper.
Yeah, well, it just happened.
I know, I know. It's interesting though to think about it in that particular way though. Yeah.
So it's an interesting piece of work, I think. Uh, Well, that was a panel. It was a lot of discussions about how do we do this. When we asked them, like, what do you want to do? JLS was like, I had never thought of this. But it's, I say JLS, but Jills? Yeah. Jills was like, I never even thought about this.
Yeah.
And it shows you that not every artist even considers these things. Some of them don't even consider themselves artists in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. I wonder what other panels were you interested in seeing and what stood out to you, I guess, from the CAA conference. Just for the context though, CAA is a conference
Oh,
like
yeah.
a national, it's like one of the biggest conferences for art historians, artists, curators, conservators, among other things. And what was it called? CAA is the College Art Association of America. And so what happens is that you have a conference every year, and they used to do it in LA, but now they just switch back and forth between New York and Chicago, right? And so all
Yeah.
the big, art historians, visual culture people, they all come to showcase, some of their work that they're doing. And it's pretty exciting. And we got a chance to go see a couple of panels as well with, you know, some differing
Yeah.
opinions, I think. But I don't know, which ones stood out to you?
So it was interesting seeing traditional art historians try to deal with
Yeah,
these things. We had this one panel where it was like really interesting seeing someone engage with the digital space of AI
right,
without like clearly like of course they're doing research and everything, but it's not the same level of familiarity, and you can see it in how they describe AI, right?
right,
They still reflect these how do we say stereotypes that the lay people have about AI, that it is creative, that it does, that it thinks, all these things, when in reality, AI is everything but a, no, I mean, sorry, everything but I. It's everything, but it's all A, no I.
right.
Um, so that was an interesting panel that we looked at. We ended up talking a lot with the audience in that one, as
Yeah,
audience ourselves. This was called art 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 sorry Art, Its History and Institutions in the Age of AI and Posthumanism. So there
Oh,
was a
right.
lot of discussions, yeah, about creative agency, double brains, studies on the challenges of AI art and contemporary museum practices. That was Bob, which is a really cool piece of art that you use an app to work with. You can still download the app, but you have to be next to Bob for it to do anything really. But it's
Mm.
funny.
Yeah.
Then there was, sorry, go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead.
And then the last one, which was the one that most interested me because of who I am, was the one by Thomas Halver. Halver, yeah, which is Presence and Praxis: The Future of Online Art Exhibitions.
Hmm.
And it was interesting because as curator of Header Footer, well, I do online art exhibitions, right?
Yeah,
But it was interesting his perspective about not using three-dimensional spaces because
right.
as he mentions, is like right now a lot of people don't have the literacy to use 3D controls, which is
Right.
true. I agree with that. At the same time, we have to be ready because, well, I'm like an elder millennial, so that means I'm 40-ish. And once my generation hits like this, once we become seniors,
Hmm.
um, we have the literacy. Like half of the people 40 and under or more play video games in one way or another. So to us, it's not as alien as it is for others.
Right.
So that's going to change the way we design exhibitions. We're going to be able to do wilder, more interactive things, I think.
Yeah, because I think his emphasis was on the actual navigation of a page, like a web
Yeah,
page itself, right? Which was really interesting, but I think you also bring up a really good point. Like, why not try different or alternative spaces, like three-dimensional ones, in order to showcase artworks and exhibitions, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that one was a really interesting one too.
Well, we actually have a one-dimensional exhibition in the New Media Caucus. It
Mm-hmm.
was done on Twine. It's
Yep.
one of the showcases for the J-Man. I think it's the first one I did, and basically it's a narrative space, and you just go. There's a room in front of you, and then you choose to go in or go out or do things
Yeah.
like that. And that one, it exists in no spaces, but it's not a web page. It's a really weird thing to describe, but it's really cool. Well, I think it's really cool how it came out,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it turned into this creative thing where you navigate a space just through text. But yeah, so that one was really interesting to me. I don't know if any of those jump out to you from that first one.
I think honestly, I was more engaged. Like the presentations were interesting for sure, from different perspectives. I do
Yeah,
find art history as a discipline needs to catch up in terms of how to talk about new media
yeah,
art for sure, because we cannot rely on old traditional ways of talking, first of all, about it, like through purely a visual analysis point of view, that
yeah,
completely ignores the fact that like new media sometimes is very interactive, for instance, right? And so you
yeah.
can't just rely on the traditional ways of speaking and like writing about it because it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Even
Um,
the old ways of
yeah,
speaking of new media don't apply anymore, I think.
exactly, right? That's why I say that art history needs to catch up in
Yeah,
this regard. What else? I did find that the audience had extremely good questions, especially the one that you mentioned on AI. And, you know, it's tough because there's a lot of rhetoric about, like you were talking about, in terms of AI and it just being A and not the I. And I found that very intriguing because I think for many people, there's still the sentiment that AI is going to change the world in some drastic way, or that it is highly intelligent, or that it's, capable of creativity, or it's all of these things. But as someone from the panel who mentioned, in that particular panel, it's best to think about it as an extension of ourselves in some, in one capacity,
yeah.
right? Rather than it just having this agentic quality to it that we ascribe to it. So I don't know. A lot of really interesting conversations came up from that. But we also
I
had the
think
showcase. we also had the showcase,
Oh,
right?
the showcase, yeah. So New Media Caucus, which is like our parent ONG, I guess we would call it. I don't know. Our
Yeah,
our parents.
our
uh
parent organization,
Led
yeah.
by Nick Krombach. No, Botcha, yeah.
Roger. Yeah,
Krombach is the editor of Leonardo. Sorry. Uh no, Nick Botcha. But well, it's we had this discussion with Nick about how to pronounce his name because it's either
yeah.
Botcha or Bottrager, like he pronounces it. Um, Obviously, we are going to use his Bottrager. Um, but yeah, so Nick is the president of the New Media Caucus, and alongside with Eden and is it Sarah? I believe
Not
it's
quite sure.
Sarah. Yeah.
Mhm.
They created this idea of the New Media Showcase that happened, the New Media Caucus Showcase, which happened on Wednesday at around 7 p.m. in
Mhm.
Elizabeth College. No, the
The
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Foundation.
Fountain. Yeah.
The Elizabeth Foundation. Yeah, exactly. And it's a showcase of members. Like you could apply and say, well, I have this project I want to show. And then it would go through a selection. And if they like what you were showing, you would were given 5 to 6 minutes to present.
Yeah, like
It was
six
very
minutes.
tight.
Yes.
Yeah. But in a way, it's better. In a way, I would have liked people to have more time, but then it would have been longer and it probably would not have worked. Anyhow, and in that thing, we had some really cool artists like Artwood, who did this suit that inflates,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Really creepy, but in a cool way. And he's projecting like his own body parts, but like mushed and glitched on top of this suit through projection mapping. Or I think it was just simple projection. I can't remember, but it was really interesting. It was really cool.
That one is
And
the one that
then
stood out to me too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
followed them immediately on social media. It's like, yes, I need to see more of this artist. It's super
Yeah,
cool.
so did I. Yeah, so we did that. My boss did the presentation of this walkable article, which is basically an academic article turned into a video game. Because in that way, you can see how the thing she's talking about actually function instead of just reading a basic description of them. Obviously, it has a lot of challenges, still being
Mhm.
worked on, just ironing out the kinks, and ideally, we'll be able to showcase it here as well.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, we're in the gallery. We're still figuring that out, but we'll see. So there's that. And there were other panels as well, but I don't know if you want to mention something from the showcase.
Let's see. There was like, oh my gosh, there were a couple of them. I'm trying to remember all of them right now. That one in particular, the one with the inflatable suit, I think is the one that stood out the most for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Just because it was so creative and it had to do with the body, which is something that I love to research and study. And performance too. It was just a very
Mhm.
unique of, and I think they also got a lot of questions about it in the end. I wish there would have been more time for questions, honestly, just because the projects were so fascinating and so different from each other. So it would have been good to see how they could have entered into conversation with another.
Yeah.
Um, right. No, but it was good. It was nice. Also, I don't know. One of the things I always take away from these conferences is meeting up and networking, but mostly just meeting up with people from your organization, the Pneumonia Caucus, but also from like work, other universities, people you haven't seen in such a long time, and just catching up and seeing what they've been up to. So, as of late, right?
Or actually meeting your coworkers, because I
Or
got to
actually,
meet
yes.
like Nassim Navad, who I've been working with for a while now. But like, I mean, it's not the same to look at her picture and then seeing the actual person, right? Like, she actually was in the panel, and it took me a bit to realize it was her because obviously it's hard to recognize people just
Yeah.
based on photos. But it was really interesting meeting like Nassim, seeing Jill, seeing all these people that we're always talking about and hanging around with, but in person. It's different. It's new. It was
It's
interesting.
very
And
good.
yeah,
Yeah. It felt really nice. And because you feel like you're part of a community. I mean, you do online for sure, but this feels, more
real,
body, right? It feels more
embodied.
embodied, exactly. So, It was
Yeah.
really nice catching up with folks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And if you want to join, you can always join New Media Caucus online. Just go to newmediacaucus.com. .com? Yeah, newmediacaucus.com and just sign up and you can participate and see all the cool things that everybody in the group is doing. You can send your own news and all that.
Yeah, and if you're an artist and want to get, if you're interested in participating for the next showcase, which will probably take place, well, the showcase is virtual, right? And in
Yeah.
person in some
Well, it's
cases.
mixed. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to be part of that, yeah, sign up, let us know, and maybe we'll see you in Chicago for next year.
Yeah. There's also the whole well, we have two grants, the Judson
Yes,
Morrissey Excellence in Media Award, and then we also have the Wagner
Mendoza.
Mendoza,
Yep.
Mendoza, which is another new media grant. They're all like no strings attached. So that's one of the things I really like about them because it
Yeah.
lets you pay the rent. Something that
Mhm.
not many grants allow you to do, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, which I think it's more important than being able to, create a new project. It's like keep the lights on. I think that's super important for artists
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. No, they're very
And plus, you
generous.
get an exhibition with me. Well, I curate the
Yes,
exhibition.
true. Absolutely. You're also the other thing I was going to mention. There are some tote bags that if you're interested in acquiring one, it'll function as a donation to the Media Caucus so that they can then use the funds to give back for the grants as well for anyone who applies. And the tote
Yeah,
bags are really good. They're really, I
they're
don't know,
big.
they're fun. They're bagoo. Yeah, and they're relatively large, so you can fit a bunch of books in there too. So,
Yeah, yeah, and they're pretty. They have the new designs. It's really really cool
Mhm.
as well. So then we also had other panels. The other panel I would keep thinking about is the one that was called Art Beyond Games: Critical and Creative Approaches to New Media Art.
Mhm.
And out of those, well, it was interesting because the first one was Ronald Bernier, who was talking about Bill Viola's The Night Journey. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting discussion of how this thing works, how it's goes against like traditional video game functionality. But one of the things that was really amusing for me was he had never seen it in a museum. And I got a
Hmm.
chance to tell him where to go and find it. He was really excited.
Oh, cool. That's really
Yeah.
good.
And then we had one with Bowie, who's Constance's friend, and also
A new
we're
member of
waiting.
the.
Yeah, new member of New Media Caucus, and she's curating a new exhibition for the Peter Fuder Gallery. We're just waiting for that one. And she did controller effect, teleporting into game art as virtual citizen, and that was really interesting as well. Talking about like control interfaces in a way. I don't know if you want to talk about it because you know
Yeah,
Bowie.
yeah, yeah. No, and that one in particular, I thought what was interesting is the effect that different controllers and mechanisms, but also interfaces, gives you a different sense of interaction with games, right? And also there was one that Bowie has been working a lot with the work of Aurelia, who had an exhibition at the Museum of the Moving Image, and it was fantastic, right? And the thing is, or the artist had two video game style works. And I went with Bowie, and that's how it started becoming part of her research, right? And the thing
Mm.
about it that she talks about is how there is one particular game whose name I forget, but we can put it in the link, in which you're controlling the character. But if you try to move the character so that the character faces you, you can't. It's impossible to face the actual character. So what you see is what the art historian term is for the Ricken figure. You just see always the back of it, of the figure every time, you move it and you move through this landscape, which is really cool. The piece is called Bientôt à l'été.
Uh, you froze. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gintotilite.
Hmm.
That's the one? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I found it on the abstracts. I have them right here
Perfect.
open. But yeah,
Excellent.
Bowie's thing was really interesting. And yeah, you do think about it, but I always think about them from a mechanical way, right? Like how they get in the way of something or how they reinforce something. There's for example, this piece called, well, it's a video game, but it's also a thing called Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which is a piece that I've always liked. And in that one, the controller, without the controller, you cannot understand this piece because
Mm.
it has this thing. I've spoken about it. It's the one where you control the two brothers, one stick for each one, and then one dies,
Oh,
and you lose use of the control or half of the controller, and how
yeah,
that makes you feel that sense of loss in a way that you don't feel just looking at it. It's really interesting. Again,
that's
they redid it like last
hmm
year, so now you can play it again.
Oh, cool.
And it's the same guy that made the divorce simulator called It Takes Two.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Same
Yeah.
guy. That guy is
Oh,
a Swedish filmmaker, actually, that
cool.
decided to do video games because now he's really into making stories that you cannot just watch, but actually play.
Right, right. That's really
And
cool.
then we also had Tony's Crush. No, I'm kidding. um, Douglas Stark with Simema. I can't pronounce this one. Simema.
Cinema. Yeah.
Yeah, radical passivity in Freundheim's schema, which is basically this form of filmmaking where you have a video game which is supposed to be played, but it's taken out of your control.
hmm
So things like, for example, Ken Watanabe's Deer Cam, which is a mod for GTA, where you literally just watch a GTA deer running around.
Yeah.
And so it kind of betrays the intention of a video game by being uncontrollable. But at the same time, it's not cinema because it's completely live. So he approaches it from this point of view of the viewer. Meanwhile, I approach it because I studied the same piece that he is. And I approach it from an artist's point of view. And in that way, it actually, like, the deer is the performer. Well, the
hmm
camera could be argued to be more of a performer. I don't know. That's still what I'm trying to figure out. Who's the performer, the camera or the deer?
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
But it also it's about code as performer, which is again really obvious and really not obvious because like a computer performs calculations to perform the motions in the game.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about performance as performance in the Schreckner's definition, which is
hmm
I don't know if you're all familiar, but there's different ways that performance can be classified. Like sex is performance, daily life is performance, um, socializing is performance, all these things. And one of the categories is art, performance as art. And
Right.
within that context, I think the deer is also a performer. So it's a way of separating different types. Anyhow, so those three were really interesting. To me, my favorite was Cinema. Uh,
hmm
both of the other ones were also just really interesting.
Yeah. We also had the panel that was sponsored by New Media Caucus,
Yeah.
one about feminism and in particular cyberfeminism and like the legacy that it left behind. And my old advisor was there present. She was the discussant and trying to ask questions to the panelists. And it was great to see how the work of this pioneering feminist, cyber feminist art collective called Sub Rosa, that stemmed from Carnegie Mellon, and how the work that they did in order to not only like subvert, but also mention and take part in conversations about how technology, in particular biotechnology, was exploiting, women in various
Yeah.
ways. Right? But yeah, so what was interesting about that is seeing the legacy that they have left behind. And if you are interested in looking more about this, they do have an archive at Carnegie Mellon or
Mm-hmm.
um, in that general area as well. But yeah, they had some really good uh, participants, all
Yeah.
thinking through cyberfeminism in a very different way, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's also good to see like a panel like that being supported by New Media Caucus, I think.
Absolutely.
Last year was ours, by the way, just
Yeah.
to highlight that. Yeah, so that was the CAA. It was a really interesting combination of panels of people that we
For
got to
sure.
meet, places that we got to go. We also like did this just outside of CAA. Constanza and I we went to Luna Luna, which is a really interesting. I'm not, when I say weird, I don't mean it as the thing itself, but the way it was presented. Because
Yeah,
Luna Luna is this theme park created in 1970, no, 1989 or 87.
in
87.
the 80s. Yeah. Yeah, and
1987. And it features artworks from like um Keith, oh my God, my brain
Herring,
just went, Keith
Keith
Haring, yeah.
Haring,
And
Liechtenstein, a bunch of
there's
other
this,
folk,
yeah,
Salvador Dali, among other people as well. Yeah, that was a really cool. It was really interesting. I think I would have liked to have seen a little, like it exhibited a little bit differently than what it was, but I liked what I saw. For context, this Luna Luna show was at the Shed for I think a month or so, or a couple of months. So we got a
yeah.
chance to go see it. But yes, it was a theme park.
So here it is.
Yeah, so it was a theme park inside this exhibition space, and you could immerse yourself. And the thing that really was super cool is that there was with you have the rides and everything, right? You cannot ride them, which was a little unfortunate, but that's
Yeah,
okay. But the cool thing is that they had coordinated the sound, like the sound and the lights in a very interesting way. So it was really effective and immersive, right?
yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's only, it's going to stay there until March
March
16th.
16th, yeah.
So you have
Nice.
time. Uh,
You have
the one
time. It's in New
thing is,
York.
sorry,
What?
you were saying something and I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just mentioning that Luna Luna takes place at the Shed in New York City for anyone who's there and wants to get a chance to take a look at it.
The one thing that was, it's very weird because it's really cool in the terms of this thing that I had never in all my history of studying art history had ever heard of, right?
Hmm.
But it's also very sterile in a way. Like it's treated like a festival, but it's also do not touch this, do not approach this. Um, I'm not saying it's bad because I cannot imagine any other way to show it. It just feels weird, right? It's also
Right.
very commercial, so you can see like T-shirts for $38. Assuming this is the book, the catalog, that's $50, $128 for a hoodie. It's a very capitalist, expensive thing. Let's
Mhm.
not mince words here. But at the same time, it's a really interesting piece of history. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm just like, I'm not criticizing it just to criticize. It's just because you have this feel like, could it be more fun,
It could
right?
be more engaging for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's still
absolutely.
an interesting thing. What else did we do? I think
We
that
got
was
free
pretty
books,
much. Oh, we
which is
got
the
a ton of
highlight.
books. It's a
We
whole
got
history.
It's a whole history. And the only thing I will say about the free books is that if you do end up going to the CAA for next year, wait until the last day of the conference and the book fair and line up with everyone else and go inside and pick up the book that you wanted to buy, but was too expensive or whatever it was, and get it for free or
But
for cheaper.
also
For
take a
cheaper.
picture of the book and the place where you are, not just the book.
Yes.
Then, because sometimes things happen, like Constanza forgot where she reserved the book and then
Yeah,
couldn't claim
true.
it. So,
Yeah, it was sad. But I found the book eventually, so.
well, we found it for cheaper, right? Like
Yeah.
$24.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
was cheaper than what they were selling it for.
yeah,
But it was pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, take a picture of both the book and the seller just to make sure that you find whatever, and be there early because it's as rowdy as it gets for a bunch of art historians. Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, there's people like, no, no, I got this one. No, this one, it's really fun. But yeah, so always make sure that you're there on the last day and get the books because they're really interesting. So that was that. Then I flew back to Germany
Mhm.
and I went to help run another another event, which was Manifest.io.
Mhm.
Really cool, very underground vibes. some really interesting people there, but it's so funny how small the world is.
Yeah.
So I curated one of the winners for the Wagner Mendoza grant. I believe it's the Wagner. I think it is. Was Chloe Lee, and I curated a show about her work. So now, years later, it turns out that I'm running the panel where she is featured.
Oh, cool.
And we didn't recognize each other until like I'm on the train and Chloe Lee and I send messages at the same time. Hey, I just realized that I curated a show for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really funny thing, but we finally got to meet, and we had like people from all around the world. It was very focused on giving a platform to people who normally don't have platforms in.
Right. That's so important.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a really cool, interesting thing. It was brutal. We ended up both days at 4 a.m. from like ending things, like arranging things and all that. So I got back and I was out for like 2 days. It was brutal, but it was worth it.
That's good.
Yeah. Was there anything else you did or want to mention?
No, no. This was great. It was really good reminiscing about a really great week that we had. And you got to visit me in New York City, which is always great.
Yeah, that's always great. Now it's your turn to come here, to call through it.
So next time I'll be over there.
We could go to Basel or something, which would be fun.
Super interesting. Yes, that'd be super cool.
Just need to time it. But yeah, no, that would be cool.
Is that
so next time we could do Header Footer Presents from Basel.
Yeah.
And maybe we could try and do, I don't know, I'm crazy, but now we could do a live thing.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Just do like live streaming from the phones and be around like all these things that we're doing. And look at this crazy thing and all that. That would be actually pretty interesting to do next time we're together.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be like an art show. It can't be a conference because like for CAA it would be really weird. We're walking into the store.
Yeah, no, it would only work as an exhibition or art event for sure.
Yeah, but we can do that. Maybe that's a future thing for Header Footer that we do like live events. That would be interesting to see how that gets. If anyone's interested in that, let us know in the comments so we can like gauge interest.
Sure. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
I think that's it as well. So this was a short one, but we don't want to like crowd you with just trying to talk more than there is to talk about. So with all that said, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.